All right, so today we're going to be talking about something called post-nut clarity and what exactly post-nut clarity is and why, because that's a name that's occurred for this thing that happens to men after sex sometimes. So it's a very interesting thing. Joe Rogan talked about it on his podcast, if you ever watched any of that stuff. And he kind of goes into a little bit of detail, but not really. So I'm going to explain post-nut clarity in as much detail as I can and why, and whether it happens to women. So here's the thing. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been really into someone? Like you're texting, you're responding fast, you're excited, they're excited, you're thinking about them all the time, and then it finally comes to the day and the time where you hook up, and then you finish, and suddenly you're lying there thinking, well, why did I want this so bad in the end? Not necessarily because it was bad. Honestly, it could have been great in the moment. But now you don't want to cuddle. You don't want to talk. You're thinking about food, your to-do list, literally anything else. That, ladies and gentlemen, is post-nut clarity. And honestly, a lot of us guys, we talk about it a lot. We joke about it a lot. But if we're honest, most people actually don't understand what's happening when that flip of a switch goes off in your head and why. Before we go any further, I want to go over and introduce myself. For those of you that don't know, my name is Chris Hodgson. I'm a former professional adult actor and professional companion. And today we're talking about something that happens to men a lot more often than you think. And I feel this topic might open doors for a lot of questions and comments from you ladies. But honestly, if we're talking about it, it can actually mess with your head if you don't really understand it. So, post-nut clarity. Why do you go from, I need this woman right now, to, yeah, I'm good, in about 0 to 10 seconds? Is it biology? Is it in your head? And as I said before, do women get it too? So let's break this down. So what actually is post-nut clarity? So here's the simplest way to explain it. Before you orgasm, your brain is in chase mode. Everything feels exciting. Everything feels important. You start thinking, God, this person is amazing, special. Sometimes way more than they actually are. And I'm pretty sure we've all done this. You've built it up so much in your head. You start thinking, man, I really like her. This feels different. I could see this going somewhere. And then you orgasm. And it's like someone has just turned the volume completely down. Like no hate, no anger. You're just calm. Like your brain suddenly goes, all right, well, I've come. Now I can look at this properly. That's post-nut clarity. It's not that your feelings were fake. It's just they were turned all the way up. Okay, so why it happens? Honestly, in the simplest terms, your sex drive literally takes over all thoughts other than, I need a hole to fill. Like, literally need a hole to fill. But it's funny, make myself laugh there. But let's talk a little bit about the biology around it, okay? When you're turned on, your brain is full of dopamine. That's the chemical that makes you chase things, right? It makes you want her more. It makes you imagine more. It makes everything feel more intense than it really is. So you're in that pursuit mode. Then, boom, you orgasm. Dopamine drops super fast. And your body switches into, I guess, a recovery mode. And suddenly, it's like your logical brain comes back online. And it's like your brain goes, okay, I guess now we can start to think straight again. And sometimes when you think straight, you realize you wasn't thinking that straight 5 minutes ago. Does that kind of make sense? Now, this is why post-nut clarity doesn't always feel the same. Like if you haven't had sex in a while, you know the build-up's going to be much stronger. If you were really chasing her, you see the fantasy gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If it felt like you had to really kind of work for it, your brain puts even more value on the prize. So by the time it actually happens, your expectations are way up here. And when in reality, it's just normal. So you have this gap. So you sit there thinking, that was it? And not in a bad way, not because like she wasn't attractive, not because it was bad sex, because the chase was more exciting than the result. So why it can feel like regret sometimes. Sometimes it's not just clarity. Sometimes it could be regret. You finish and you immediately think, I shouldn't have done that. Have we been there? I know we've been there. I know some of you have definitely been there. Maybe this whole time you just wasn't that into her. Maybe you ignored red flags. Maybe you were just bored. Maybe you just wanted validation. Maybe you were just lonely. You see, desire can make you do a lot of things that actually don't match what you really want long term. So when that desire switches off, you're now left with the decision you made without it. And that's when it hits. Again, not because the sex was necessarily bad, because you did it for the wrong reason. Honestly, what happens, your penis literally takes over and you're thinking with, let's just say it how it is, your second head. You know what I mean? So now why some guys get stuck in this loop, and honestly, some guys live with this cycle even without kind of realizing it. You know, it goes the chase, the excitement, the hookup, then the clarity, then they lose interest. And then, whoop, repeats itself again. Not because they're players. I mean, yeah, sometimes they can be players. But honestly, it's down to because the chase feels so good, you know? The flirting, the tension, the build-up, the feeling of winning someone over. That part can be more addictive than the relationship itself. So they keep putting themselves in situations where there's always high excitement, but normally very low connection. Then they wonder why every time after sex, they suddenly don't feel anything anymore. It's not bad luck. It's just a pattern. Why sometimes you want to leave right after. So let's be honest. Sometimes right after you finished, you just want to get the hell out of there. Not because you did anything wrong, because your brain just switches modes. Before, desire mode. After, reality mode. Before, you fill in the gaps with fantasy. Then after, your brain goes, yeah, this isn't really my person. It was just something I needed right now in the moment. That's not cruelty. That's just clarity. Now, here's the big question. Do women get post-nut clarity also? I think absolutely. Women must get post-nut clarity as well, right? I just don't think usually it's in the same way. Because sometimes, in fact, when women orgasm, it's the opposite. They tend to feel closer, more connected, more bonded. But I guarantee you there are times and have been times where women can still have that moment after where they think, why again did I get caught up into all that? Especially if there was excitement, attention, validation, and strong chemistry. So clarity isn't just a guy thing. I think it's just something guys talk more about. Or do we? I mean, I've heard it on occasion from a couple of women, but in my reality, I've heard it a lot more from men. So ladies, if you're watching this, ask yourself now, has post-clarity ever happened to you? Because as I said, I honestly think many women experience this. Maybe not as often, or do you? And us men just have no idea because we don't hear about it from you. It's very interesting. Now, hookups versus real connection. So you notice post-nut clarity feels a little different in a relationship. If you actually like the person, you don't have that feeling of, oh, I suddenly need to leave. You might feel calm, you might feel quiet, you might feel relaxed. Well, of course, because you just came and you just orgasmed. But you don't feel like escaping necessarily, right? So there's a huge difference there. When the only thing holding the moment together is sexual tension, once that tension is gone, what are you left with? You're left with nothing, really. But when there's a real connection there, sex doesn't end the feeling. It just changes the energy. And that's something a lot of people don't realize until they've experienced both. Now, what should you pay attention to? Here's the part that guys don't think about. If every time you sleep with someone, you lose interest right after, that tells you something. Maybe you like the chase more than the bond. Maybe you're addicted to excitement. Maybe you don't slow down enough before even getting physical. One good question to ask yourself is, would I want to still sit and talk with this person afterwards? Not before, after. Now, if the answer is no, well, your brain already knows. So you're just ignoring it in the moment. Overall, post-nut clarity isn't bad. It's just a chain reaction of what happens when you orgasm, especially in men, and your dopamine drops, and you all of a sudden come back to life. It's just being honest. It shows you what's real when the rush is gone. If you still like her afterwards, then honestly, that means something. If you don't, then that means something too. The goal isn't to avoid post-nut clarity, because honestly, you simply can't avoid it. The goal is to try think clearly before you get there. And most people don't. In reality, let's be honest, have you ever built up someone in your head so much that right after sex you're like, yeah, that wasn't what I thought it was? Honestly, I think men, women, most people have. So if you like real conversations about sex, attraction, relationships, things like this, then like and subscribe and tune in for my next videos coming up. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I'm Chris Hodgson. I'll see you next time.